Welcome to the Book Club Life. I'm Jenny Snow, and I cannot believe that I get to sit here today and bring you Lynn Austin. Lynn is one of my favorite all-time authors. She wrote one of my favorite all-time books, Top 10 Best Ever. But not only is she one of my personal favorites, she's also a Christy Hall of Famer. That means she's won the Christy Awards so many times that they had to say, you're not allowed to win anymore. They put her in the Hall of Fame. Her books have been top picks for Library Journal and all kinds of awards and accolades, and it is an honor to be able to get to sit with her today. So thank you, Lynn, for joining us.
I'm honored to be here.
I am going to do a giveaway for one of Lynn's books, so stick around to the end to see how to enter. And we're going to have a little book club with Lynn, so I'm going to ask her questions about my favorite book of hers, although I love many, A Proper Pursuit. And she's going to answer book club types of questions about her own personal life using the themes and quotes from the book. And you're welcome to use these questions if you have your own book club. And so before we get started, Lynn, will you just tell us a little bit about yourself, your family, kids, and a little bit about A Proper Pursuit, just the premise?
I'm been married for 52 years, just had my 52nd wedding anniversary.
Awesome.
My husband and I met in college, and it's just been a great ride ever since. We have 3 children, grown, and I have 4 grandchildren, 2 boys and 2 girls. And I live in Michigan, Western Michigan.
Okay, awesome. And tell us just a little bit about A Proper Pursuit and the premise of that.
The Proper Pursuit is about a young woman, and it takes place during the time of the Chicago World's Fair. It was it was the Columbian Exposition. They were celebrating the anniversary of Columbus discovering America. So it was 1892, I think. It was 1492, so it was a 500th anniversary, and it's a very lively young woman who goes to the fair, and she's on a quest to find her mother, her real mother, but it's also everything she's about to learn in the fair, and she goes to stay with these 4 very lively aunts.
Yes, who all have their own quest
They
for
all
her
have
life
their own
and her
agenda
romantic
for her.
life.
Yeah. They do.
Thank you. So it is filled with romance, and it's one of the few books that has made me stop reading because I was laughing out loud so hard, which makes it one of my favorites. Although I did get in trouble once because I recommended it as a funny book, and also that I was taken to task because there is stuff that you could cry over as well. So there's really deep themes. There's both, which is hard to do in a book, but Lynn did it in this one. So moving right into our questions, I'm going to read a quote. It's actually 2 quotes mashed together. I really don't know much about love, Aunt Bertie. Your stomach goes all aflutter, and your palms sweat, and your heart starts spinning. I'm not sure I would like the sensation, to tell you the truth. Does love really feel that way? So that's a quote from one of the characters, Violet Hayes, actually. So I was going to ask you, what does true love feel like? And how can someone know, or how do you think someone could know if the one that they're with is the one? And then how did you know that your husband was not just a fun guy to date, a guy you liked, but someone you loved and would spend the rest of your life with?
Okay, that's a complicated question. I think love does feel a lot like that in the beginning. That's the fun part, you know, when, you just, his hand brushes against your hand, and it's very exciting. It's fun. It's lively. Then you asked about knowing about true love. I think that takes time, because I think there has to be chemistry between people, certainly, and that those reactions are part of that chemistry. You can't, but the chemistry will fade. And how do you know it's true love? I think is once you get to know each other.
Yeah.
And to find out if this person, all they want is for your good, and all you want is for that person's good. And I couldn't imagine living without my husband. I couldn't imagine going through the rest of my life without him. We met in college, and he had a car with a very loud muffler on purpose. He was all souped up. He still loves cars. And when he'd come to the dorm to pick me up, I could hear that car coming down the street. And I remember I was getting ready for him, and my roommate says, "Are you falling in love with him?" And I said, "Why?" She says, "Every time you hear that car coming, you start smiling."
Oh.
And I looked at the mirror, and sure enough, I was smiling because he was coming, because it was just I just wanted to be with him. I mean, he made me laugh, and you know, he wanted the best for me. I remember the one night I had supposed to be studying, and I heard the car coming, and he comes over and he rings for me up in my dorm room, and he says, "You got to come out. You got to come out. There's a full moon and it has a ring around it." And I thought, I could spend my life with somebody who notices stuff like that, and who isn't so involved in life that they don't stop and smell the roses.
Appreciate the beauty.
Yeah. So I mean, we had that connection.
That's a great answer.
Yeah.
I remember when I was with my husband, he actually told me he loved me first before I could say it back, because I wasn't sure as fast as he was. But I remember the thought at a certain moment thinking, there's nobody in the world who's going to love me the way he does. And that was my moment of knowing. So very little similar. Okay, so we have another quote. There's one character in the book that gives the same advice over and over and over. And she says, "Make sure you marry for love, dear." So if you were going to, I'll let you answer this one of two ways. Number one, what is a piece of advice that you would give over and over and over if you had to pick one piece of signature advice? Or what is one piece of advice that was given to you that really made an impact and a help in your life?
Well, the advice I give, and it's become a theme in so many of my books, to a young person would be, God has a plan for your life and a purpose for your life. You're unique because He wants to use those unique things about you for His plan. And, you know, instead of trying to be like everybody else and trying to fill some role that you feel obligated to fill, find that piece of the puzzle that only you can fit. Find, you know, what God has for your life. And I don't think it's one thing and then that's going to be the whole rest of your life. You know, I mean, there was a time in my life when I knew it was God's plan for me to raise my children and, you know, do that. And I think, you know, we can have the freedom throughout life that it grows and changes with us. But just to be sure in your own mind that you know you are unique, you are loved, God has a plan for you, and that you find that, and you, no matter what happens in life, whether you're rich or poor, or, you know, a lot of tragedy or not, that you will have a fulfilling life if you grab onto that concept.
That's really good. I love that answer.
Yeah.
Okay. So related to that, one theme, there's a couple, but one of the themes of a proper pursuit is the idea of a calling, what your calling is in life. So how can someone find out what their calling is? Or what is your calling in life, and what have you had to sacrifice and overcome to answer that call? Do you have any advice on this? Number one, for finding your call. Number two, for going after it when things are hard, if you think that you do know what your calling in life is.
Finding your call, I think God's very willing and eager to let us know what that is. I think that's where you have to grow in faith and learn to understand how He speaks to us. And, you know, if you wait for an email from God, you're probably not going to get one telling, "Dear Lynn, this is your call." But I think He speaks through other people, other Christians. He speaks through Scripture. If you take time to read the Word, if you're around people that know God and they can help you. I mean, if you really prayerfully go before God and say, you know, you feel the nudges, I think, first. And when I look back, there were a lot of nudges in the direction of writing that I didn't necessarily put together. I was always good at writing in school. I always got A's, but I didn't realize that was different. Yeah. I didn't realize that I was good at it because it came so naturally to me. And I have to sadly say there weren't that many college or high school teachers that pointed out to me that perhaps you have a gift for writing.
Right.
You know, that encouragement wasn't there. But you know, I think if you really truly go before God and even ask, what is my calling? Or if you're starting to feel those nudges, and, you know, He'll answer you if you seek and if you call.
That's good.
You know.
I found that to be true in my life as well. Even just the most basic call of love the Lord your God with all your heart and love one another. You can start there. But I remember trying out acting for a little while and praying about it. And I did not get that confirmation from the Lord, so I was like, okay, that's not it. And so I just moved on to something else. And I have felt God leading and either confirming or, moving me on
Right.
if I was in the wrong place. So,
Yeah.
so God, you can count on God. There's a verse that says, acknowledge Him in all your ways, and He will direct your paths. So you can just trust Him to direct you. Okay, this quote I loved. It made me laugh. I didn't know what I wanted to do with my life, so I remained in bed.
I wouldn't exactly give people that advice, but it's
It was
funny.
a quote, yes, not advice, but Violet said it at some point in the book, and it cracked me up. So I wanted to ask you, what do you do when you feel overwhelmed?
Actually, I'll read a book maybe.
That's good.
Or go for a walk in the woods or something like that. I think you just have to take a step back.
Yeah.
I think before you get to the place where you're overwhelmed, learn to see the warning signs
good.
ahead of time.
Oh, that's really smart.
And stop and not let yourself get to that point where it's too late, because then
look for those patterns and then head them off. Oh, that's
and know
really
yourself
smart.
well enough to know your limits. I know when I first started writing, and my time was so limited because I had little children at home and everything, and so I would take advantage of every little scrap of time to write. And I got a call from the Sunday school director at church and wanted me to teach Sunday school class. Well, you're a former teacher, it's natural,
Right.
And it was true if you look at it through her eyes. Yeah, why aren't I using my gifts and my experience as a teacher?
Because you could.
Right.
Yeah.
But I was pretty sure God was calling me to write.
Yeah.
And I knew the amount of work you'd have to do, the prep and all of that stuff.
Right.
And that was the little bits of time that I had between laundry and everything else. And so, you have to learn to say no. We're very much inclined to say yes to everything.
Right.
A lot of it is guilt. Like that was my guilt, that of course I should be teaching. I'm not doing anything at church.
Right.
Of course I should be doing that.
And if you had 5 lives to live all at once, you could do that with one of your lives.
Right.
But we only each have one.
You have to learn to get to the point where you know what is God asking of you, and
That's good.
You don't get so overwhelmed when you, because I don't think He wants us to be overwhelmed.
No,
with all the stuff we have to do.
No,
I think
He doesn't.
Keeps it in perspective.
That's good. Okay, one more of the book club questions before we move into just for fun questions. A quote from the book is, tragedies can be a new beginning as well as an ending. And I wanted to ask you, have you experienced a tragedy that became a new beginning, and what did you learn from it, and how did it shape you?
The one that comes to mind, first of all, is I went through a period of time with secondary infertility. We had our son, I wanted a big family, I wanted more, and the babies weren't coming. And it got to the point where I couldn't even go down the diaper aisle in the store, and it seemed like everybody was having babies except me, and there was just this longing in my life, and it seemed like an end, that to try to get to the point where I accept it if God was only going to give me one child. I tried to do some things on my own, maybe I'll adopt, maybe, But what it started was a new beginning. Was I came across, I found out about a young woman who was considering having an abortion, and I said to the intermediary, please tell her not to have an abortion. I'm longing for a child. I'll take the child. And it opened my eyes to how many, like in this case, there was a college where the girls there was a van to take the girls if they wanted. And it so struck me that I became very involved in the Right to Life movement.
Wow.
And I helped found in that area a crisis pregnancy center.
Wow, I did not know that about you.
And then, to get, so that the girls would have an option, so they wouldn't have to put them in the van and take them for an abortion. As it turned out, the young woman and her boyfriend decided to get married and raise the child. So
that's beautiful.
it was beautiful. Except I'm like, this baby.
Right.
I was disappointed, but it opened my eyes to the larger problem, and that the girls. I am longing for a baby, and these girls, they feel like they have no choice. Like their life is ruined and everything, and it just really opened my eyes to the breadth of the problem.
Yeah.
And okay, what solution can we have? And, to start this crisis pregnancy center. So. yeah, you know, on all these questions about why isn't God answering my prayers and everything. And then miraculously, 7.5 years after my first son was born, I was pregnant. And it wasn't any doctors or anything.
Right.
It just,
That was
God
God's
says
plan,
okay.
God's
But
time.
in the meantime, it you know.
So it enabled you, so you were able to get past it and find joy in the life that God had given you.
Right. And it also, I mean, I spent a lot of time in prayer. I went through all, you know, is it sin in my life? Is that why you're not answering my prayer? You know, you go through all this.
Right.
And it drew me closer to God because I was looking for answers.
Right.
And at the time, I read a book called The Chosen by Chaim Potok.
Okay.
And it was a novel. And in the course of that novel, it was God gave one answer for why he doesn't always answer our prayers.
Okay.
And so not only did I see the power of what a novel could do, but the author took you into the world of the Orthodox Jews and made it very familiar, and God was a part of all of that. This was long before Christian publishing was popular. And I began to see how why can't there be a novel from a Christian worldview in the same sense that he's taking us into the Jewish worldview and a typical life, and maybe there could be a novel that would take readers into a Christian's perspective.
So was that all before you got your start?
So that was before. So
Wow.
here's this, on the one hand, opening me up to and drawing me closer to God, showing me through a book an answer to prayer, and that was one of the nudges that maybe I ought to sit down and try to write.
Wow,
So it kind
that's
of all
amazing.
came together, all from what to me at the time was this real tragedy. I mean,
Right.
and people say unfeeling things like, you better have another baby, he's going to be spoiled, you know, and not knowing the,
Right. Not
the
knowing
pain
your
I'm going through.
secret tragedy.
Yeah,
Your secret longings. that
So
you
then
had
I
tried
got,
that.
I got 7.5 years later, I had the baby, and then I had another one right away.
Wow.
So the two
You know,
bonuses.
you're not the only person that I know that's happened to, where
Yeah.
they just were like, you know what, I guess that's not God's plan, we give up, and then years go by, and then all of a sudden, oh, we're
Surprise!
pregnant, oh my gosh.
yeah.
Wow.
So,
Well, I know that you're probably wanting the link for that book, so we will have that in the show notes, as well as the links to every book that we mention of Lynn's and her website and everything. And so if you are enjoying this interview so far, hit that like button on YouTube and subscribe to the channel. And now we're going to go to some just for fun questions.
Okay.
So, Lynn, would you rather play a joke on someone or have a joke played on you?
I don't like surprises, so I think I'd rather play the joke.
You play the joke. What is your favorite holiday and why?
I had to think about that one. I think, this is going to sound really corny, but I think Thanksgiving.
Okay.
Not only because I have my whole family together, usually, it's not going to be this year, but it's just a pause in all the busyness to remember God, you know, and we have some family traditions about, you know, really showing our thanks. And I remember one year somebody suggested that I do a fast, try fasting for a day before Thanksgiving,
Okay.
and that every time your tummy rumbles and you're feeling that hunger, realize how many people in the world, you know. And then I think there was a link to Feed the Hungry that,
Okay.
you know, you could donate to. But it
Wow.
really brought home that, hey, I don't have to feel this hunger. I'm so blessed that
Right.
whenever I'm hungry, I can go to the refrigerator. And,
Right.
you know, so it was just that heightened
Yeah.
awareness. But I always remembered that lesson. And, you know, just to have, I'm thankful for the family. I'm thankful God has blessed me abundantly.
Yeah, and that's a good time to think about it, because not only is it Thanksgiving, but you don't have all the presents of Christmas, because Christmas
Yeah.
has that opportunity too, except for you're also doing that checklist with
Right.
who knows how many at the same time. Okay, an author I love is blank because blank.
Just one recently is Anthony Doerr,
Okay.
because his books are so different, but yet like so incredibly creative.
And is he the guy who wrote All the
All the
Light
We Cannot See, which has some real dark Nazi atrocities that I just sort of had to skip over.
Okay.
But the newer one, Cloud Cuckoo Land,
Okay.
is just so creative, so out of the box, and yeah,
Yeah.
it just
Okay, very
not
good.
the same old, same old.
And speaking of World War II, So when we do the giveaway, I'm going to let you choose either A Proper Pursuit, but that one has been around for a while, so if you already have that and you've already bought it for all your friends, the other option is Chasing Shadows. I did read this recently. It was so good. It's a page turner, not because of the romance. It's not a romance, but it's a page turner because who's going to live? Who's going to die? Are they going to make it through? Are they going to get caught? There is some romance in there actually, but it's not the major part of the story. It's not what it's like, oh my gosh, kept me turning pages.
Are they going to get married?
Yeah, it's World War II. Okay, and let's see here. So what's the most disgusting thing you've ever eaten? And that is in honor of Violet Hayes, the main character of A Proper Pursuit. She has amazing questions and she's so imaginative.
Those questions, by the way, I should add, that was my daughter.
Oh.
The last of the surprise babies.
Okay.
And when I was writing that book, she was in high school or just starting college. And there's one thing Violet does in the book where she asks the guys she's dating, would you rather be captain of a pirate ship or captain of a sailing ship? I forget what her questions were, but my daughter would actually do that. If she was dating a guy, she'd ask him these outrageous questions.
Yeah.
And, you know, if they were like, huh, like, you know,
well, I can see that because I saw myself in Violet. I felt like I was reading about myself.
Yeah, then you know, this guy's a loser. But if they got into it and had that same creative, you know, bent to them, then you know they were.
Then they weren't checked off or crossed off the list yet.
Yeah, I think the man she ended up marrying, he the whole scenario, you know, not just the captain of a pirate ship, but why and where you go, and you know, had the whole thing. But yeah, the most disgusting thing I ever ate, and I was on a book tour in the Netherlands with my Dutch publisher, and they took me out to dinner to this very beautiful restaurant where you have a long, leisurely, you know, a meal, and I could tell it was a place that they had gone to a lot, and that the waiter knew him, and that the chef came out. And he said, I have an appetizer just specially for you.
Uh-oh.
And it had something with fish in it, and I'm allergic to fish. So I said, you know, I'm really sorry, I can't eat this because I'm allergic. He says, I'll fix you something special.
Oh no.
Like, oh no. So he's doing this just for me, right? So he comes back out, and it was, I think, what they call steak tartare.
Okay.
Which is basically raw meat.
Okay.
All chopped up. And it's in a nice little dish. And he says, here you are. And like the thought of eating raw meat. I mean, it's not disgusting. People eat it all the time, and I'm sure they like it.
And you don't get sick from it, I guess.
But yeah, but I mean, it's not.
How big of a bite did you take?
Oh, I sat there. I had to eat it all. I mean,
you
the
ate
chef
the whole
is
thing?
right there,
Oh, my
and he wants to see the enjoyment. And I'm like,
oh my goodness.
It's not something I would ever eat on my
so you
own.
not only had to eat it, but you had an audience.
I had to enjoy it. Yeah.
Oh my goodness. Well, the only thing I will say for mine is beware of fancy cheese tables at weddings. If it looks like it's going to taste like chocolate cheesecake, it does not. Okay. So because of time, I think we're going to end it there. But actually, we're not going to end it. Where can people find you online, first of all?
I'm on Facebook.
Okay.
Lynn Austin.
Okay.
Yeah.
And what are you working on? What's coming out next?
Okay, next, I just finished the book. I just turned it in before I came to this conference. So, yeah, and we'll see what the editors have to say about it.
Okay, can you tell us the setting or the time period?
The setting is the Gilded Age, so 1899, I think.
Okay.
But it's the story, it's the grandmother's story, the mother's story, and the daughter's story. So there are flashbacks to other areas as they tell their story.
Okay. Awesome. Sounds good. I can't wait. Now, you won't win a Christy Award for that one, but it's only because she's barred. She's not allowed to win anymore.
Booted me out.
She won too many. And did I say she's won 8 Christy Awards? That's why they had to create the Hall of Fame and put you in it. So if you would like to enter the giveaway for your choice of A Proper Pursuit or Chasing Shadows, just go to jennysnow.net. It's also going to be in the show notes, and I'll put this on social media as well. I will probably ask you to make a comment which one you want, but I'm so excited to give it away, and you're going to love the books. So
hope so.
Thank you for watching, and Lynn, thank you so much for doing this with me. I so
it's
appreciate
been fun.
it.
Yeah.
And thank you for all your hard work. For readers and for people who have worked so hard all week and just get to escape in one of your stories on the weekend.
Good.
So, all right, happy reading.